Okay, just had to make sure it was recording. So I'm going to continue where I left off on part 1, okay? About aid for the undocumented. So, here's the thing. We can't allow ourselves to get mad and scapegoat the undocumented for the fact that the EDD website isn't working. That's not the immigrants' fault. People are complaining, oh, the website for unemployment keeps crashing. Why can't our government work? Get mad at your local and state representatives for not having a proper software that can handle such an overload during this crisis. Do not shift your anger to the undocumented because they didn't ask for this virus. They just want to live. They just want to work, you know? Again, now, there is a very sad angle that's happening where they're saying like, oh, well, you're not entitled to anything because you're here illegally and you broke laws, therefore you shouldn't get aid. I mentioned this before. But it's strange, it's like, okay, Americans don't have to work hard to be American. All your mom has to do is plop you out in the soil here and you're an American. You don't really have to enlist in the military, there's no draft. You don't have to have a certain training. You have really meager civics training in high school that nobody even cares to pay attention about. You don't have to memorize any state mottos. People can barely know their own geography of the United States. If you went, and I think someone should do this, to these alt-right people who are paleo conservatives, kind of a fox name for the racist right. They don't like being called that, but they really are. They really are, and they need to admit it. They're the ones who have cartoon avatars on their YouTube pages. They have the frog symbol. They are very, very bigoted. They don't like to say they are, and they like to hide behind saying that the undocumented are just sucking like leeches off the system, but it just isn't true. Okay, so if you look at how much aid the undocumented are getting, and you look at how our own government is failing, you need to recognize where the real issues are. The Communist Party of China is more to blame than the economic migrants who live here. All they want to do is work. And when you have this anger inside, like, Americans first, it's like you're letting bigotry and hatred go into your heart. Instead, I think you need to turn to your creator. That's what I think Islam has helped me with. Is that it literally says in the Quran, he gives from his bounty whom he wills and withholds from whom he wills. And if you're suffering right now, you need to turn to your maker. Do not allow the neo-Nazis, the KKK members, the alt-right, the Golden Dawn members, all these different groups, don't allow them to infect your mind with bigotry and hatred. I know that this hate that you feel might feel good to some of these alt-right people, but you're putting blame on just somebody who's just got brown skin and is just like, I want to go back to work. But they literally have bills that are due, okay? Again, you can order for border security, and you can argue that, oh, well, we want the caravans to stop. I don't like the caravans either, okay? But here's the thing. Those are separate issues. The caravan issues are separate. And you might say, well, if we give funding to illegals, that'll incentivize more people to come here. Okay, wait a minute. I want to give you an idea about something. When you look outside at the homeless people, how many of those are illegals? It's not very many, right? It's mostly citizens. When you look at drug addiction, when you look at that, who's the majority? It's American citizens, right? They use way more drugs than the undocumented. The undocumented want to work. They ain't got time for that. They just want to work. They're some of the hardest working people I've ever seen. Okay, and the undocumented are family oriented. They have very low single parent households, and they're very religious. They're very Catholic. Okay, so again, I know that there are gang members who come here, but how many American gang members are there? There's a lot. And I used to run around with them. I know. There are way more American-born gang members. And when the innocent village boys come to America, they change. The gangster culture tries to snatch them up, and the prostitutes try to pimp them, and they try to get money from them, and they pollute those young boys who come from the farms. So we have to look at what are we doing to the undocumented. See, people keep saying, they keep switching it, these neo-Nazi weirdos. They keep saying, oh, well, they're sucking all the money out of the tax system. You're complaining about them getting some rice, some beans, maybe a little Coca-Cola, and a little bag of tortillas. That's pretty much, and they get a little carne asada with a little bit of salsa on top, maybe, and that's their meal. Little scrambled eggs, maybe too. These people live on a very minimal budget, and they usually live with a lot of them in apartments. Okay, they're not as greedy and narcissistic as the American-born people. Okay, when they come here, they change because we change them into something different. The prisons are mostly filled with American, they say, oh, okay. They say the sanctuary states are too kind to criminals. They don't deport them. Okay, how many of undocumented commit crimes compared to native-born citizens? You have to look at that. Okay? I've been looking a lot into all the different prisons, and if you look at the crimes that are committed, the really awful, atrocious crimes, a higher majority are born of American citizens. So these people, if they really cared about crime, they would bash the gangs, they would truly try to improve the culture, and they would lead by example. When the alt-right people encourage their fans to hate somebody just because they lack a green card, and just because they don't have papers, it's a very petty, weak, and fragile way to hate on somebody. Again, there's a lot of Americans who can't find, they can't label many of the states on the geography map. They don't know what 1776 was. They were very illiterate in American history. They can't probably name even 5 Native American tribes. They probably haven't even read their whole Bible front to back. This is the sad part, is that they don't look at how they are themselves. Okay? Instead, it feels so good to them to take all their problems and push it onto the undocumented. The undocumented are not to blame because you didn't save money, because you don't know how to, train for another job. They say, oh, they're suppressing our wages. They're taking our jobs. Jobs change. Okay? Jobs change over time. We used to have horse carriages, and that got changed to cars and Uber drivers. You gotta be able to keep up with the pace. You gotta be able to update your skills. Don't blame an undocumented immigrant because you can't hustle, because you can't grind. Now, you can go to college, you go in debt, you can go that route. You can be an entrepreneur, you can invest in the stock market, you can start your own business, you can start your own vlogs. You gotta go out and get your money. But don't complain when an undocumented person who's literally vital to the economy, because there's millions of them, you literally cannot just let them starve to death. What kind of moral person thinks this way? And who allows themselves to be infected with such hatred and then feels they're superior? You're not superior if you're filled with hate. Charity, humbleness, empathy, stuff like that will help integrate them more into the society. If you alienate them and you don't help them, of course they're going to form their own communities. And a lot of these alt-right people say they don't integrate with us, they don't learn the language. Hey bruh, you gotta learn Spanish. They say, English is a very popular language. You gotta learn multiple languages, man. Most colleges require you need to learn another language. Spanish, learn another language. How many countries speak Spanish? So many. I mean, Argentina, Spain, Honduras, Belize, Mexico, Cuba, blah. It's so many countries, right? Again, you can't be so egocentric to be like, oh, we don't need to learn about them. They need to learn about us. Integration is both sides, right? And the best way to integrate with somebody is talk to them. Go talk to an illegal. How do you know they're illegal? Sometimes they're standing out in front of Home Depot. Don't assume that because they're brown they're illegal. They could have papers, right? Be friends with the Latino community. Meet them. Talk to them. Extend a helping hand. You'll see that it's just regular people, man. They're just regular people who want to eat, right? But if you're advocating to take food and aid away from people during a virus pandemic, and then you want to pretend that you're some, you know, good person, and you try to hide behind the Constitution, and you try to hide behind the American flag for your bigotry. No, 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 no. No, this country has always had problems with people hating each other. Irish hating Italians, you know, the Anglo-Saxon types, the whiteys coming over from England. They even separated, and then you had people born here fighting the British. We're always trying to pick fights with each other. Even the tribal people fought with each other. Humans love to fight. But right now, during this pandemic, a true testament of your character is, can you put your bigotry aside and help a hand? These little kids is gonna starve. They're gonna go homeless. And if you say, good, they deserve it because they're illegal. Bruh, come on. Do you really feel that way? Come on. Come on. That's pretty cruel. You should be very careful. Even if you believe in karma, you believe in one God, you believe in many gods. Either way, you gotta really think about yourself and say, is this something I'm gonna be judged for? I'm encouraging hate crimes and visceral and suffering and mental despair on somebody just because they lack a piece of paper? How is that moral? How is that helpful? How is that practical? How is that needed? How is that sustainable? You cannot let 10 million people just up to your own devices and then complain, I need more money. It's like, yes, we're all suffering. Businesses are collapsing. Not everyone has got their Trump check. Some people haven't got their unemployment. That's not the undocumented's fault. But we got to come together, and if you live in California, stick up for the undocumented right now on your social media. Stick up for them because the hate crimes are going to come on them hard, and we have to protect them. Okay? We have to protect them. We have to do our part to protect them. As Americans, America is not a race. It's an idea and a way of thinking, and one we constantly have to work and prevent the neo-Nazis and the KKK members from taking over. Being American does not need to mean being racist. It doesn't need to be that way. We need to take it and shift it. Being American is a personality. It's liberty and freedom and aid and prosperity and industry. And who's more industrious than an economic migrant? Come on, man. We gotta help each other.